Welcome back to NHL Tonight, free agent face-off. Billy, we start with you and these two. Compelling. Landeskog, Hall. Who are you going with?
I'm going to take Gabriel Landeskog. Consistency, 20 goals in the bank. The numbers match up better for Taylor Hall, but the more complete all-around game for Landeskog is impressive for me. Taylor Hall's been on 4 teams in the last 2 years, only had 2 goals for Buffalo in the time there. Went to Boston, played better, had 14 points in 16 games. But Landeskog, all around with the size, the body, the compete level, the proven leadership. He's been the captain there in Colorado for a number of years. For me, for adding a guy like that to my locker room would be, I know exactly what I'm getting. At this point with Taylor Hall, I don't know what I'm getting.
I'm calling timeout. So on TV, they make you wear an earpiece so we can hear what's going on. The ear that I had closest to you, I thought I heard you say that Taylor Hall had 2 goals in Buffalo.
2 goals in Buffalo, yes.
2 goals in Buffalo?
Yes. That's, even though Buffalo was having problems, yes, Taylor Hall, former MVP just a few years back.
And when he got to Boston,
yes,
it
was better. It was better, the knee surgeries and the first step. He did look like he had a quicker first step, and on that second line with Krejci and Smith fit in very well in Boston. But there is the questions. When you've been on 4 teams in the last 2 years and you've bounced around like that, teams are wondering where you're at health-wise. Can you get back to that MVP level? When I take a look at Gabriel Landeskog, every night he's going to show up for me. He's going to do exactly what he does. There hasn't been a dip or drop in his play. It seems that there has been this ups and downs, ebbs and flows. So if you want to gamble, you go Hall. If you want the surefire thing, then you got to go Landeskog.
Yeah, and you can you're going to know right now, I paid attention to the leaders in the locker room in Florida my first couple of years. Billy was one of them, and I couldn't agree more with everything he said right there. Landeskog, I like the grit, the attitude, the leadership, all those intangibles that he brings to the table. Yeah, Taylor Hall, he's prettier, he's fancier, he's maybe got more upside offensively, but a lot of that seems to be athletic. You know, where does he fit into a system with the 4 teams? Why can't this guy stick somewhere with how skilled he is? Well, is it there something where he's not thinking the game with the system-wise or whatever it may be? I think he's a spectacular hockey player, don't get me wrong. But everything Billy said about Gabriel Landeskog, his attitude, what he brings to the table, what he does off the ice in the Towns, you know, how much he gives back to Towns. He's just A-plus character kind of guy, and you know exactly what you're going to get out of him. You got a guy that, hey, if maybe he doesn't have the offense going that night, he might go stand up for a teammate and get a fight to get your team going. He's going to make the big play defensively to get your team going. He's going to find a way to be part of every game, every night, as opposed to where Taylor Hall does kind of fall asleep sometimes.
The Avs named him captain when he was 11. Right? Do you remember?
11 or 12, somewhere in that range.
Do you know what I mean?
Range.
Like that.
Oh, actually, they waited until he got to be a teenager.
Okay, so 13. Captain since 13. On the topic of numbers, Emma, our outstanding researcher, said Taylor Hall, 2 goals in 37 games for Buffalo, and in Boston, a goal every other game he averaged. What a stark contrast. My goodness. On to the next. Kyle Palmieri, Mike Hoffman, Perry, lead us off.
Oh, well, I gotta go with my former Binghamton teammate, Mike Hoffman, my fellow winger. We played on the same line. I like Kyle Palmieri that what he did, obviously, he stepped it back up in the playoffs. He's been a consistent goal scorer. You look at the numbers, Hoffman's obviously got a little bit more assists. The big thing that put me over the top on it was Mike Hoffman, see what he did for St. Louis. When he started scoring goals late in the year and then going into the playoffs, he absolutely changed St. Louis's outlook. He single-handedly can take over games. He can win games. He's that threat where you get on a power play. He sets over there opposite side of Ovechkin. You know when he gets it, he's going to shoot it, and he does beat you more often than not, that's for sure. He's just a pure sniper, and I think he's the kind of guy that can fit in, and I would take Mike Hoffman on my team for him.
I'm going to go the other way, Kyle Palmieri. I had a chance with Mike Hoffman a couple of years to go to see him up front, personal, every game in Florida. And Mike Hoffman can score goals, and he's legit. And to me, at times, can be a one-trick pony. The goal scoring is where it starts and ends. Kyle Palmieri can battle. He can play on basically all 4 lines. You want to put him on the first line or the 4th line. He's going to grind, and he'll hit people. I like the style that he plays, and he's perfect over there with the New York Islanders, and Lou Lamoriello knew what he was getting when he traded for him. When I watched Hoffman and the ice time got diminished at times for him, he would disappear. He would sleep. And it happened this season in St. Louis where they weren't happy and they had to scratch him a couple of games. And it was after being a healthy scratch for a couple of games that he came back and he lit it up for the Blues. But he's a guy who has to be in the perfect situation, has to get the first power play minutes.
Yes.
If he's on the second power play, it doesn't work. Palmieri doesn't need the power play minutes. His even strength goal total numbers are excellent every season, and I put a lot of stock in that. If you score a lot of goals at even strength, you're doing something. And Hoffman, to me, the defensive liabilities are there. There's times that he doesn't back check, times that he doesn't compete. He's way more of a natural goal scorer than Palmieri. But for me, all around, complete package, I'm going to take Palmieri.
So you guys are split on that forward faceoff. The next one, Billy, you first. Nick Foligno, Paul Stastny, veterans, and I think about two of the high hockey IQ guys that you can't find anyone in the league who will say anything negative about their character.
Absolutely not. Nick Foligno, 33. What makes the big difference on this board actually is the 2 years.
Okay.
The 33 to 35 makes a big difference. And Paul Stastny's lost a step. Can't keep up, and it's all about speed and pace in the game today. If you can't skate, you're going to have problems. And the 2021 cap hit, $1 million cheaper for Foligno. Foligno is too. He's in Columbus there, the captain. A lot of talk, and he goes over to the Maple Leafs. And they wanted that grinding type forward. And you look what Coleman and Gaudreau did in Tampa Bay on a Stanley Cup team. Nick Foligno, to me, is one of those type of players. He can go in there and play that third-line role, score timely goals, and excellent all around in your dressing room. Paul Stastny's got more talent.
Yes.
Through his veins, but you can't keep up. 35 those 2 years, and 35's, to me, when you start to the cliff starts to enter.
You start to feel it.
To me, there's only decline left, unfortunately, for Stastny in the upcoming years, is where I feel Foligno still has a few good years of good quality hockey in him. There, I go for Foligno.
How about you, Perry?
I, again, couldn't agree more with Billy. I like what he brings to the table. He reminds me of that Landeskog. He brings that grit. He brings that bite. And his all-around game compared to Stastny's is a better game. And, yeah, that 2 years at that age, at 33, 35, that does make a difference. I remember being there. And the 33 felt okay, and 35 felt, uh-oh. It's kind of how it felt. And I think Foligno, with his style of game where he's not just relying offensively like Paul Stastny, he does a lot of things besides that. He brings in that grit. You know, as a centerman, he's pretty good on face-offs. He PK, he'll fight. He gets in Toronto and he goes out and fights right away for his captain, for Tavares. He does all those things that's just so big in a locker room. The leadership, and how about just the leadership in the locker room, the character, what he brings to the table, his age, his attitude. I'm Foligno all day long.
His quote, our captain was on the ice. He said it so matter-of-factly, it gives me goosebumps. I love the game of hockey and the loyalty within the room. Last one, gentlemen. Perry, you are up. Zach Hyman, Jaden Schwartz. Pick one.
Oh, this one I found to be actually kind of the toughest one. But again, the first thing that I look at with Hyman is the cap hit. You look at that cap hit, he's a little younger, he hasn't played as long, but he has put up numbers. Obviously, he's been in Toronto, he's got a lot of help behind him, but he's shown he can keep up. He can do everything just as well with the Toronto Maple Leafs. I think he's a guy where anybody right now, teams at 29, obviously, you're just looking to add him. Schwartz, same age, obviously, but to go in, you get a Schwartz where you get the playoffs, you get the Stanley Cup, you have all that. But I like Zach Hyman right now. He's been part of an organization that's whole mentality has been win, win, win. Obviously, they've come up a little bit short there in Toronto, but that's the kind of atmosphere he's used to. He's used to a club that's doing what they can, that going for it all, that character, that chemistry in the locker room, and guys like that are tough to come by. I like Zach Hyman.
Gotta go with Zach Hyman. If you're out there in the NHL and you want to look at comparables, where do you go first? Yanni Gourde, Coleman, Gaudreau, correct?
Okay.
All right, so that's the comparables. You want that line because that seems to be the X factor for the Tampa Bay Lightning. Out of those two players, Jaden Schwartz more natural goal scorer. But if you look at Zach Hyman, he played on the top line at times, but he can play on your third line. He'll dig down deep in the corners. He's always out there at the end of the games protecting leads. He's not going to sacrifice anything defensively to go offensively. A lot of grit there, and if you get that kind of player into your locker room, into your system, then you're that much closer to winning a Stanley Cup. He's digging pucks out of the corners, that type of stuff. It goes so far beyond that. And Jaden Schwartz, he's had some inconsistencies. The goal scoring is the producing, but to me, he has to be on the right line and have the right fit and continue to produce the numbers. And if you take Schwartz and you put him on the power play and put him in good scenarios, there's an argument for him too. And you have the one argument for Schwartz that was tough for me on this was his playoff performance. The year they won it. Yes.
Yeah.
So I look back to that playoff performance, and this is where I was torn, because he was so exceptionally good in that playoff performance for St. Louis.
And you add weight to that.
Yeah, so I add a lot of weight to that playoff performance. If I go by the regular season and Zach Hyman, but yes, having a Stanley Cup championship, this is the closest I had between any of these two players. Jaden Schwartz, in winning that Stanley Cup, deserves a lot of credit because of the productive numbers, and he came up. And if you show up in the playoffs and you produce, there's one area that Zach Hyman and the Toronto Maple Leafs, it hasn't happened for him. All this is based on the regular season. So Jaden Schwartz, and I'm talking about coveted players and making Stanley Cup, but he did do it at the right time when healthy. So I'm gonna call it a tie.
That's hockey history.
I'm usually very decisive.
We've been doing a shootout for years.
I'm usually very decisive on this, but it's just so hard to pick between these two in my mind, because one having a Stanley Cup and being very productive, the other can play on all four lines, and that's what everyone's looking around the NHL for at this time. So, yeah, I guess if I had to flip a coin, I'm going to take Hyman, but I'd take either of them.
Keep a tie. I love it. They're a tie.
Ty, you're supposed to be decisive and be all out, but
no,
there are times that I just look and I can't decide.
I love it.